Welcome back to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. Raila Odinga has set a trap for Rigathi Gachagua in the bipartisan talks. In fact, if Rigathi Gachagua is not careful, Raila is setting him against his own leaders and followers. Among the things that Raila has proposed lately is that Azimio wants a serious discussion concerning the elimination of the boundaries within our constituencies. And this is one thing that is at the core of Mount Kenya, because the elimination process will review the number of constituencies that might add some more constituencies to a region. And this can only happen when people sit down and look at, among other things, the agenda that the Kenya Kwanza had proposed about creating the post of a prime minister, because currently the position that Musalia Mudavadi is holding is null and void. It does not exist. It is not entrenched in the constitution. And of course, there are many other things like the CDF and the two-thirds gender rule. So Raila Odinga has realized that there is something that will be beneficial to all Kenyans, especially Mount Kenya. Rigathi Gachagua, Kimani Ichung'wah, and Ndindi Nyoro are on record saying that these talks should not continue. In fact, they are urging William Ruto to stop any kind of these talks and continue with the building the economy. Yet on the other hand, you've listened to people like Anne Waiguru, the chairperson of the Council of Governors, and the self-imposed chairperson of Jubilee, Sabina Chege, saying that it is high time we talk about one man, one shillings, one vote. And this cannot happen. It cannot be achieved unless people go for a referendum. And so Raila Odinga has realized that Rigathi Gachagua is so much obsessed about power that he overlooks things that are very, very beneficial to our nation. So in the recent proposals, Azimio wants these talks about the elimination process to be included in the bipartisan talks. Now I want you to look at what the Constitution says. The Constitution provides for a periodic review of our boundary. It is a period that should not be less than 8 years and should not go more than 12 years. Considering that the IEBC last reviewed our constituencies, demarcations and boundaries in 2012, time is running out because the deadline as per the Constitution for another review is supposed to be 2024. Remember, we are in 2023 and we are almost gone with August. So that will leave us with about four months to the year 2024. Now the Constitution requires that by now the IEBC should have begun and initiated a process that will lead to review of the constituencies. So it tells you that this is quite inevitable. So that even if Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto are chest thumping, a time is coming that we will be forced by the Constitution to look at it. Now, this process is always very emotive, and it is also a political one, because the last time we reviewed our boundaries, there is something called the population quota. This population quota is taken when you take the population, the total population of Kenyans, and because the last time we had a census was in 2019. So that population was calculated. In fact, we were found to be 47,564,296 people in Kenya. And so that number was taken and it was divided by 290. And that is how we came up with a population quota that stood at 133,000, if you calculate. Now, experts say that this quota has increased and it now stands at 164,000, because from 2012 up to date, we have had a population increase, and this prompts the IEBC, as mandated by the Constitution, to look into the boundaries delimitation process. Another thing that is coming up is that the process is very emotive, because in the boundaries that can be affected always identifies a particular leader with his followers, and because of this, touching on the boundaries can always be not a very palatable process for the leaders. It also affects the access and distribution of resources, and in many cases it defies the identity of there are people who identify themselves with a particular geographical area. If today you want to evacuate Maasais from the Mau forest, there will be a lot of problems. And to date, the Kuria community in Nyanza are agitating that they should be given their own county. They fall within Migori County, and they feel that they should be given their own county because of political reasons. And this is why this process is a bit emotive, and when it is approached, it has to be approached with a lot of caution. Now, the biggest part of it that is affecting Mount Kenya is that when the delimitation process takes place, then it is going to add it is going to add some more constituencies and some wards. And when this happens, it goes without saying that the resources that are going into a particular region when this review has been done will increase. Because when you increase the number of wards and you increase the number of constituencies, then it means that we will have new or more members of the county assembly. We'll have more members of parliament, and that comes with the creation of jobs. In terms of constituency development fund and the ward development fund, it means that an area that has got an increase in ward and constituencies will gain. And when this matter came during Uhuru and his handshake partner Raila Odinga, it was entrenched in the BBI. It was refuted, and the Mount Kenya fraternity was urged to reject. And this thing went to the court and it was rejected. Now the legislators from Mount Kenya are realizing gradually and finally that it was a good thing for them, because I have heard some of them say that they are largely populated so much that when they consider the money that they are given as CDF, it is not enough compared to other regions that are sparsely populated. And with this, they're crying foul and crying out that this should be looked at. Now, what any other moment are we supposed to look at things like this if it is not in the bipartisan talks? Because the technical team that was given a mandate to look at the agenda and summarize them in a smart way so that we know what to talk about, a structured kind of paper that will allow the two parties to look at how we review our constitution. Considering that Mount Kenya, just like any other region, are yearning for a constitutional change, are yearning for boundaries review, Rigathi Gachagua finds himself in a lonely pathway, because he's chest thumping and making a lot of noise, because what is in his mind is a no handshake kind of dialogue. But the talks, if structured well with political goodwill, can allow Kenyans, or will allow Kenyans to achieve much more than what is in their mind. They are so much obsessed about power. and they forget the benefits of these talks. I'm one person who has never supported these talks. Why? Because there is no political goodwill from the other side. But if there would be political goodwill, if people would sit down with a lot of honesty, without playing some important cards under the table, then these talks can really achieve much, because there will be a ceasefire. I really feel for the parents who lost their children courtesy of a moment of carelessness by just pulling a trigger and someone has lost his life. So I'm against I'm against violence because people lost their lives. And this is why I'm saying that if the Kenya Kwanza team and the Azimio team could be sober for just once, then we can achieve a lot. And ladies and gentlemen, when Raila presents this on the table, and Rigathi Gachagua keeps making a lot of noise, they risk losing out on a very important occasion. Because why should people like Anne Waiguru talk about one man, one shillings, one vote, if they're not ready for such kind of talks? Because if there is political goodwill, this is the moment for us to look at the boundaries. Because in fact, I understand that when the BBI was crafted, at some point I remember people like James Orengo and Otinda Molo crying foul that some regions like Mount Kenya were going to benefit hugely and enormously compared to the other regions. Yet Rigathi Gachagua is blinded and he cannot see this. Ikimani Chungwa Ndingi Nyoro, that the only person they see is Raila Amolo Odinga. The only enemy they see is Raila Amolo Odinga. The only thing that they feel and they feel in their heart is a handshake. And yet there are even more bigger and more beneficial things that can happen in these talks. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I'm telling you that Raila has trapped Rigathi Gachagua, because Rigathi will continue to just thump, yet the other people would want the boundaries to be revisited. Time is elapsing because the deadline is in 2024. We are crossing over, and we must look at our constitution, despite the fact that other people are very myopic in their political prediction. They only see a handshake, yet we want things that will benefit more Kenyans. And I don't know what you think, but if you are from Central, remove Raila outside the picture and tell me whether it is time to review our constituencies, because you are going to gain more resources. Constituency Development Fund, Ward Development Fund, an office full of secretariat and a security and vehicles. So drivers will be there, security men will be there. I mean, what more can we be looking for? What a moment for us to put our political differences aside, to stop burying our heads in the sand and look at ourselves as Kenyans and promulgate this, because a constitutional review is a process that will not end today.